Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. She was the daughter of a kind and noble king and a queen who was known for her beauty and grace. Sadly, the queen fell ill and passed away when Snow White was just a baby. The king, heartbroken, remarried a woman who was beautiful but vain, and cruel but vain and cruel. This new queen possessed a magical mirror that she would consult daily, asking,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
For many years, the mirror would reply,
"You, my queen, are fair. It is true. But Snow White is even fairer than you."
This infuriated the queen, who could not bear the thought of anyone being more beautiful than she. As Snow White grew, her beauty blossomed, and the queen's jealousy deepened. One day, the queen could no longer tolerate the thought of Snow White overshadowing her. She summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White deep into the forest and kill her. The huntsman, a good man at heart, could not bring himself to harm the innocent girl. Instead, he took her to a secluded glade and told her to run far away and never return to the castle. Snow White, terrified and heartbroken, fled into the dark woods. As she wandered through the forest, Snow White stumbled upon a small cottage. Exhausted and hungry, she knocked on the door, but no one answered. She pushed the door open and entered. Inside, she found a cozy little home with 7 tiny chairs and 7 small beds. Snow White, too tired to think, lay down on one of the beds and soon fell asleep. The cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs who worked in the nearby mine. When they returned home that evening, they were surprised to find Snow White sleeping in one of their beds. At first, they were startled. But when she awoke and told them her story, they felt compassion for her. The dwarfs welcomed her into their home, and Snow White quickly became a beloved member of their little family. She cooked, cleaned, and took care of the dwarfs, who in turn protected her from the wicked queen. Meanwhile, the queen discovered that Snow White was still alive. Furious, she devised a plan to eliminate her once and for all. Disguised as an old peddler woman, she visited the dwarf's cottage and offered Snow White a beautiful poisoned apple. The queen knew that Snow White would be tempted by the fruit's vibrant red color and sweet aroma. Despite the dwarf's warnings to never open the door to strangers, Snow White, feeling lonely and curious, opened the door to the old woman. The queen, with a wicked smile, presented the apple to Snow White. "Just one bite, dear child, and you will be the fairest in the land," she coaxed. Unable to resist, Snow White took a bite of the apple and instantly fell to the ground, lifeless. When the dwarfs returned home and found Snow White, they were heartbroken. They placed her in a glass coffin, mourning her loss. The news of Snow White's beauty and tragic fate spread throughout the kingdom, and many came to pay their respects. Among them was a handsome prince who had heard tales of her beauty. When he saw her lying in the coffin, he was struck by her grace and beauty. The dwarfs rejoiced, and the prince, overjoyed to see her alive, asked for her hand in marriage. Snow White accepted, and they returned to the kingdom together, where they were married in a grand ceremony. The wicked queen, upon learning that Snow White was alive and had married the prince, was filled with rage. In her fury, she rushed to the castle, but the prince and Snow White were ready for her. With the help of the dwarfs and the people of the kingdom, they captured the queen and banished her from the land forever. Snow White and the prince ruled the kingdom with kindness and fairness, bringing joy and prosperity to their people. They often visited the dwarves, who became honorary members of the royal family. Snow White's heart was filled with love and gratitude, and she never forgot the lessons she learned during her time in the forest. And so Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after, surrounded by friends and loved ones, in a kingdom where beauty was not just skin deep, but found in the kindness and love shared among all.
A man caught a small bird, a sparrow. Sparrow asked the man,
"What are you going to do with me?"
In fact, I am starving. I am going to barbecue you.
"I weigh less than 2 ounces. You'll gain nothing from eating me. I'll make a deal with you. If you release me, I'll teach you 3 important advices. First one, I'll tell you while I am in your hand. The second one, when I rest on the branch of the tree. And the third, when I sit on the top of the tree."
That is a good deal. Tell me the first advice.
When you lose something or someone you love, let it go. Forget about it. Everything has to go someday.
The man said.
That was a good advice.
The bird sat on the top of the tree and said,
Never believe in impossible promises.
Then she sat on the top of the tree and said,
You loser, if you had killed me, you would have found 3 ounces of gold in my stomach.
The man, feeling sorry for the lost wealth, bit his fingers and sighed loudly. Then he asked,
At least tell me the last advice.
The bird said,
You already forgot the first 2 advices. How would you benefit from the third one? I told you don't worry about lost things, and I told you do not believe the impossible things. I hardly weigh 2 ounces. How would I carry 3 ounces of gold?
She said that and flew away. Moral of the story. 1. Let go of attachments. Don't dwell on lost things or don't believe things that seem too good or bad to be true.
The rabbit's brave rescue. In the savannah, a lion cub wandered away from its pride. A hungry hyena spotted the lost cub and pounced. Just in time, a quick-thinking rabbit named Rosie intervened. She distracted the hyena with juicy carrots, leading it away from the cub. Rosie gently guided the cub back to its anxious mother. The lioness thanked Rosie with a warm nuzzle. From that day on, Rosie and the lion family became unlikely friends. The lion cub, now grown, would often play with Rosie, grateful for her bravery. Rosie proved that even the smallest creatures can make a big impact.
Driving down the highway late at night, fatigue started to creep in, so I decided to take the next off-ramp for a quick break. The exit led to an empty road surrounded by fields with no signs of life. I pulled over, stepped out of my truck, and lit a cigarette, savoring the silence. As I exhaled, I heard a faint giggle, followed by a little girl's voice. "Hi, mister." My heart skipped a beat. What was a child doing out here at this hour? I looked around but saw no one. Before I could react, she spoke again. "My mommy says you'll be okay, don't worry." Confused and uneasy, I asked, "Where are you?" But there was no response, just an eerie silence that settled around me. A strange sensation washed over me, like someone was standing right next to me. It wasn't threatening, but it made my skin crawl. I quickly finished my cigarette and decided it was time to leave. Back on the road, I tried to shake off the unsettling encounter, but my troubles weren't over. The low fuel light on my dashboard flickered on, and I realized I'd forgotten to refuel earlier. Panic set in as the needle dipped closer to empty. I scrambled to find the nearest truck stop on my GPS and prayed I could make it. The truck sputtered and choked as I approached the truck stop, barely making it to the pump before it died. Relief washed over me as I stepped out to refuel, but then I saw her, the same little girl from the off-ramp. She stood at the corner of the truck stop, giggling softly, her figure almost blending into the shadows. A cold chill ran down my spine. Was she real? A ghost? Her words echoed in my mind. "You'll be okay. Don't worry." But I couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching me, or perhaps warning me. I hurriedly filled the tank and jumped back into the truck. As I sped away, the highway felt safer, but I couldn't forget that eerie encounter. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see her again, and knew one thing for sure. I wouldn't be stopping on any more deserted off-ramps anytime soon.
the kingdom of Willowbrook. Once upon a time, in a lush, green valley surrounded by towering mountains, there was a small kingdom called Willowbrook. This kingdom was not ruled by a king or queen, but by a spirited little girl named Elara. At just 8 years old, Elara had a heart full of dreams and a mind brimming with imagination. Elara lived in a cozy cottage at the edge of the enchanted whispering woods, where the trees seemed to talk and the flowers danced in the breeze. Every day after her lessons with the village elder, she would venture into the woods, where she believed magic was alive. Her best friends were the woodland creatures, a wise old owl named Oliver, a playful squirrel named Squeak, and a gentle deer named Luna. One sunny afternoon, while exploring a hidden glade, Elara stumbled upon a sparkling stream that she had never seen before. As she knelt down to take a closer look, she noticed something shimmering beneath the water. Curiosity piqued, she reached in and pulled out a beautiful, iridescent stone. The moment she held it in her hand, the air around her shimmered, and a soft voice echoed, "You have awakened the magic of Willowbrook." Startled but intrigued, Elara looked around. Suddenly the trees began to sway, and the flowers bloomed brighter than ever. The voice continued, "You are the chosen one, Elara. With this stone you can bring joy and prosperity to your kingdom, but you must use its power wisely." Excited by the possibilities, Elara rushed back to her village. She gathered the townsfolk and shared her discovery. With the stone's magic, she helped the farmers grow bountiful crops, healed the sick, and even brought laughter to the children by creating a playground filled with swings made of clouds and slides made of clouds and slides made of rainbows. However, as time passed, Elara noticed that the stone's magic was beginning to fade. The once vibrant colours of the flowers started to dull, and the laughter of the children grew quieter. Worried, she sought the wisdom of Oliver the owl. "The magic of the stone is tied to the happiness of the kingdom," he explained. "You must find a way to share the joy, not just keep it for yourself." Determined to restore the magic, Elara devised a plan. She organised a grand festival, inviting everyone from the kingdom to come together and celebrate. They danced, sang, and shared stories around a massive bonfire. Elara encouraged everyone to contribute their talents, whether it was baking delicious treats, crafting beautiful decorations, or performing music. As the festival reached its peak, Elara took the iridescent stone and placed it at the centre of the gathering. She spoke from her heart, reminding everyone of the importance of community, kindness, and sharing joy. As the villagers joined hands and sang together, a brilliant light enveloped the stone, and its magic surged back to life. The flowers bloomed brighter than ever, the laughter of children echoed through the valley, and the kingdom of Willowbrook thrived once more. Elara learned that true magic comes not from a stone, but from the love and unity of her people. From that day on, Elara continued to lead her kingdom with compassion and creativity, always remembering that the greatest treasures are the friendships and memories we create together. And so, the little girl with her kingdom lived happily ever after, surrounded by the magic of love and laughter.
The Curse of the Haunted Pumpkin. In the small town of Pumpkinville, a legend spoke of a pumpkin patch that came alive at night. The pumpkins would whisper to each other, and anyone who listened would be cursed with a frightful dream. 4 friends, Tim, Mia, Emma, and Ben, decided to explore the patch on Halloween night. As they wandered deeper, the pumpkins seemed to shift and twist, their faces glowing in the moonlight. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and the pumpkins began to whisper. The friends tried to run, but their feet felt rooted. The whispers grew louder, and they felt a chill creep up their spines. One by one, the friends started to dream. Tim dreamed of spiders crawling under his skin. Mia dreamed of being lost in a dark forest. Emma dreamed of a ghostly figure chasing her. Ben dreamed of falling into a bottomless pit. The friends woke up, gasping for breath, and realized they had to escape the patch. But as they turned to leave, they saw the pumpkins had formed a circle around them. In the center of the circle stood an enormous pumpkin, its face twisted into a wicked grin. The friends froze, paralyzed with fear.
Just as the pumpkin began to speak, the sun rose and the curse was broken. The pumpkins returned to their natural state, and the friends ran out of the patch, never to return. From that day on, the legend grew, and kids whispered about the haunted pumpkin patch. But the 4 friends knew the truth. Some secrets are better left unspoken.